Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimad Bhakti-vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Pashatya Desha Tarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 87, the prayers by the Vedas personified. Text 14, translation, purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sri Shrutaya Uchu Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribihita Gunam Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribihita Gunam Tvamasiyat Atmana Samavaruda Samasta Bhagaha Tvamasiyat Atmana Samasta Bhagaha Aga Jagat Okasam Akila Shakyava Bodhakate Aga Jagat Okasam Akila Shakyava Bodhakate Kvachit Ajayat Manacha Charato Nucharen Nigamaha Kvachit Ajayat Manacha Charato Nucharen Nigamaha Sri Shrutaya Uchu Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribihita Gunam Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribihita Gunam Tvamasiyat Atmana Samavaruda Samasta Bhagaha Mamasiyat Atmana Samavaruda Samasta Bhaga Aga Jagat Okasam Akila Shakyava Bodhakate Aga Jagat Okasam Akila Shakyava Bodhakate Kvachit Ajayatmana Charato Nucharin Nigamaha Kvachit Ajayatmana Charatmucharen Nigamaha. The Shrutis said, Victory, victory to you, O unconquerable one. By our very nature, you are perfectly full in all opulences. Therefore, please defeat the eternal power of illusion who assumes control over the modes of nature to create difficulties for conditioned souls. O you who awaken, what does it say? All, because it's cut here and it doesn't display properly somehow. This is not good. And I can't move it, I don't know. I'm gonna make it big. It doesn't show. Some mistake here. So it's all. You awaken all the energies of the moving and non-moving embodied beings. Sometimes the Vedas can recognize you as you sport with your material and spiritual potencies.
Шрутите казаха. Победа на теб, о непобедими, по твоята милост. Природата, чрез по твоята собствена природа ти си цялостен от всички съвършенства. Затова, моля те, победи вечната сила на илюзията, която поема контрол над гъните на природата и създава трудности за основните души. От ти, който пробуждаш всички енергии на подвижните и неподвижните, въплатени същества, понякога ведите могат да те опишат, както ти се задоволяваш със своите материални и духовни енергии.
Just reinitiating this again so it displays properly now. Yes. So we continue with the purport Let's see. I have Krishna book here. Do you have Krishna book there also? Just here. Huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
And it's, of course, not in the beginning of the chapter, it's 87, but sometime down the purport. Let me first see here whether I can display this properly. 87, 14. Now it shows at least properly. So the purport of this verse in the 10th canto is, the Shrutis go on to address the Lord as Ajita, implying that only you cannot be conquered by Maya, whereas others like Brahma are defeated by their own faults.
Човеките продължават да се обръщат към Бога като аджита, което означава, че не само ти не можеш да бъдеш победен от Мая, но и другите, като Брахма, са победени от собствените си недостатъци.
Then the Lord is testing the Shrutis. He says, but what proof do you have that she cannot conquer me? And they answer, the proof lies in the fact that you, in your original state, you have already realized the perfection of all opulences.
Доказателството лежи в факта, че в твоето изначално състояние ти вече си осъзнал съвършенството на всички съвършенства.
At this point, the Lord might object that merely destroying the ignorance of the jivas will not suffice to bring them to his lotus feet, since the jiva soul, even after his ignorance is dispelled, cannot attain the Lord without engaging in devotional service.
Тук Богът може да възрази, че просто като се унищожи невежеството на живото същество, това няма да е достатъчно да го доведе до лотосовите лозе, тъй като душата, дори след като премахне невежеството си, не може да постигне Бога, без да се заеме с предно слушане.
As the Lord states in his own words, Bhakti-yoga ekaya graya, I am attainable only through devotional service.
Както самият Бог казва в своите думи в Шриварватам, аз съм постижим единствено чрез предно слушане.
To this objection, the Shrutis reply, my Lord, O you who awaken all energies, after creating the intelligence and senses of the living entities, you inspire them to work hard and enjoy the fruits of their labor.
На което Шрутите отговарят, мой Господи, ти пробуждаш всички енергии, след като сътвориш интелигентността и сетивата на живите същества, ти ги вдъхновяваш да работят усилено и да се наслаждават на плодовете на тяхните усилия.
In addition, by your mercy, you awaken their ability to pursue the progressive paths of knowledge, mystic yoga, and devotional service, allowing them to advance toward you in your aspects of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, respectively.
Също така, по милостта си ти пробуждаш тяхната способност да вървят по пътите на познанието, мистичната йога и служенето, като им дава възможност да напреднат, да се приближат към теб в твоите аспекти на Брахман, Параматма и Бхагаван.
If the Lord were to ask, is that the next one? Again, I lost here. Yes. And when Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti mature, you empower the living beings to directly realize you in each of your three aspects.
Когато Jnana, Yoga и Bhakti озреят, ти вдъхновяваш живите същества директно, посредствено да осъзнаят в всеки от тези три аспекти.
If the Lord were to ask for authoritative evidence to support this statement by the personified Vedas, they humbly reply, we ourselves are the evidence.
Ако Богът би попитал за авторитетно доказателство да се подкрепи това твърдение от олицетворените веди, те смирено отговарят, ние самите сме доказателство.
On some occasions, such as now, the time of creation, you consort with your external Maya potency, whereas you are always present within your internal energy.
В някои случаи, такива като сегашно, в времето на творението, ти се свързваш с своята външна Мая енергия, докато ти винаги оставаш и присъстваш с твоята вътрешна енергия.
It is at times such as the present, when your activity is outwardly manifest, that we, the Vedas, can recognize you in your play.
В това време, като сегашното, твоите дейности са проявени външно, тогава ние, ведите, можем да те осъзнаем в твоите забавления.
Thus endowed with authority by their personal association with the Supreme Lord, the Shrutis promulgate the processes of karma, jnana, yoga and bhakti as various means for the conditioned souls to employ their intelligence, senses, mind and vitality in search of the absolute truth.
Така упълномощени с авторитета на тяхното лично общуване с Върховния Бог, шрутите предлагат процесите на карма и препоръчват карма, дхяна, йога и бхакти като различни средства за обусловените души, да използват своята интелигентност, сетива, ум и жизнен дъх, за да търсят абсолютната истина.
In many places, the Vedas glorify the transcendental personal qualities of the Supreme.
На много места ведите възхваляват трансценденталните личностни качества на Върховния.
The following verse appears in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.11, Gopala Tapani Upanishad Uttara 97 and Brahma Upanishad 4.1.
Следният стих се появява в тези три Упанишади. Gopala Tapani Upanishad и Brahma Upanishad.
Ekodeva sarva bhuteshu guda sarva vyapi sarva bhutantaratma karmad yaksha sarva bhutadi vasa sakshi cheta kevalo nirgunascha. The one Supreme Lord lives hidden inside all created things.
Единият Върховен Бог живее скрит вътре във всички същества.
He pervades all matter and sits within the hearts of all living beings.
Той прониква цялата материя и се намира в сърцата на всички живи същества.
As the indwelling supersoul, he supervises their material activities.
Като своя душа, той наблюдава техните материални дейности.
Thus, while having no material qualities himself, he is the unique witness and giver of consciousness.
Така, докато самият той няма материални качества, той е уникалният свидетел и даряващият съзнание.
The Supreme's personal qualities are further described in the following quotations from the Upanishads.
Личностните качества на Върховния са по-нататък описани в следните цитати от Упанишади.
Yak sarva gyasa sarva vit yasya gyana mayam tapaha. He who is all-knowing, from whom the potency of all knowledge comes, he is the wisest of all.
Той, който е всезнаеш и от когото идва енергията на цялото познание, той е най-мъдрит от всички.
That's from the Mundaka Upanishad. Then sarvasya vashi sarva yeshanaha. He is the Lord and controller of everyone. That's Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. And Yak Prithvyam Tishtan Prithivya Antaroyang Prithivina Veda. He who resides within the earth and pervades it, whom the earth does not know.
Който се намира в земята и прониква, но когато земята не познава.
Which is also from Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. The Lord's role in creation is mentioned in many statements of the Shruti.
Ролята на Бога в творението е обяснена в много твърдения от Шрути.
Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad states, So kamyata bahu syam. He desired, I will become many.
Той пожела, аз ще стана много.
The phrase so kamyata, he desired, here implies that the Lord's personality is eternal, for even prior to the creation, the absolute truth, experienced desire, and desire is an attribute unique to persons.
Фразата Сауканията, той пожела, показва, че Богът, личността на Бога е вечна, защото дори преди творението абсолютната истина изпитва желание, а желанието е атрибут уникален за личността.
The Aitareya Upanishad similarly states, Sa aikshata tat tejo srijata. He saw and his power sent forth the creation.
Aitareya Upanishad също казва, Sa aikshata tejo srijata. Той видя и с неговата сила започна творението.
Here the word Tat Teja refers to the Lord's partial expansion Mahavishnu, who glances upon Maya and thus manifests the material creation.
Думата Татежа се отнася до частичната експанзия на Бога Махавишну, който оглежда Майя и така проявява материалното творение.
Or Tateja may refer to the Lord's impersonal Brahman feature, his potency of all-pervasive eternal existence.
Или Татежа може да се отнася до безличностната аспект Брахман на Бога. Неговата енергия, която е всепроникваща и вечно съществува.
As described in Sri Brahma Samhita 540, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti Kotishvashesha Vasudhari Vibhuti Vindam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adipurusham Tamahu Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes.
Брахма Самхита си казва, обожавам Говинда, изначалният Бог, който има огромно могъщество. Блестящото сияние на неговата трансцендентална форма, безличностният Брахман, който е абсолютен, съвършен и безграничен, и който проявява разнообразието на безброй планети с техните различни съвършенства и богатства в милиони вселени.
In summing up this verse, Srila Swami prays.
Поставяйки този текст, Srila Swami се моли.
Jaya Jayajita Jayaga Jangama Vritim Ajam Upanita Mrisha Gunam Nahi Bhavantam Rite Prabhavantyami Nigamagita Gunarnavatava. All glories to you, O unconquerable one. Please defeat the influence of your external Maya, eternal Maya, who covers all moving and non-moving creatures and who rules over the modes of illusion. Without your influence, all these Vedic mantras would be powerless to sing of you as the ocean of transcendental qualities.
Слава на теб, о непобедими! Моля те, покори влиянието на твоята външна Майя, която покрива всички подвижни и неподвижни същества и която управлява гуните на илюзията. Без твоето влияние всички тези ведически мантри няма да имат силата или ще са неспособни да те възпяват като океан на трансцендентални качества.
So that's the summary. Yes. So, what did we understand from all that? That's a nice realization. What's the main point of the Shrutis when they now glorify the Lord? This is the first verse.
Сега това е първият стих, в който те започват да възхваляват Бога и какво е първият им аргумент.
Therefore, this last prayer of Srila Swami actually summarizes the whole thing, so we can forget everything else that was said, and we have the good conclusion.
If there is no person of God, the Vedics, they don't have power to do the mantras without him.
Well, that's
glorify him, the transcendental person.
Definitely true. Power for what? What
to
do we
worship
need?
somebody.
What do we? The mantras are meant for us. So what do we need mantras that have power? For what?
За какво са ни мантрите със сила?
To worship Him.
50%.
50%.
To start to be close with Him.
Well, 55%. What's the main point? That's what I was asking. What the Shrutis, what are they telling the Lord?
Какво казват?
He's the greatest.
Of course, it's all true, but it's not what we should remember from this.
Така е, но не е...
What was the argument?
Какъв е аргументът?
They were arguing, actually. They were asking the Lord to do something, and he said, how do you know that I can do this? You remember? What did he ask? What the Shrutis asked the Lord to do? Yes, that's the whole point, right?
Yes.
And why do they ask? Because we cannot do it alone. That's the whole. Actually, that's mantras have to have some power, because otherwise, what can we do? So that how you can say theme comes up several times. That in prayers, that the devotee or the living entity recognizes that actually, if we just depend on our own power, we can't do anything. And that's in contrast to what is Krishna saying in Bhagavad Gita about the demons. What does the demon think? Famous. We should all know this by heart. So we remember. Yes, Ishvara, Aham, Bhogi, and then what? Balavan. Siddhoham. I'm perfect. I'm powerful. I'm happy, actually. So that's and this can be taken away at any time. You can be the most parent. They think, the President of the United States is the most powerful person on the planet, right? They think like that. And especially the guy who's sitting behind this desk in the Oval Office. As soon as he sits down, he thinks, Ishvaram. Even an insignificant living entity sitting behind a desk and giving a class and looking at others who are listening, say, Ishvaroham. Isn't it? Anybody. You go anywhere, whoever takes the position of, leadership, they think immediately, I'm in charge. And sometimes the illusion is because, yes, they say something, and immediately 100 people start running to do it. Or the famous button, you press a button, and the whole world blows up. So it's a lot of power. Huh? Even the Romans, they didn't have buttons, they had thumbs. You go like this, and the guy is killed. Yeah, right. Very famous gesture. You go like this or you go like this. You have the power to decide about life or death. That's like God's power, actually. So therefore the Shrutis say, Lord, you have to help us, or all the living entities who are covered by this illusion of Maya, because otherwise, what chance they have to get out?
Затова шрутите се моля, Господи, ти трябва да ни помогнеш да отстраним Майя, защото иначе какъв шанс имаме.
So let's read something from Prabhupada's summary purport. He does both in the Krishna book. As you know, this is one of the first books he did in 1970, 69, what's published in 70, thinking, and he was right, that he may not be able to complete the Bhagavatam, especially the whole 10th canto, and he got up to chapter 13.
Сега ще прочетем описание от тази глава в Кришна, Бук, извод на днешно служение. Тя е написано, че от Прабхупад 69-70 излезе. Прабхупад е мислил, че може би няма да успее да завърши цели Бхагаватам, особено от 10 песни, затова е написал още в ранните години.
Yes, most important canto you may say, because it directly describes the activities, the pastimes of the Lord.
И това е, може да кажем, най-важната песен на Бхагаватам, защото описва директно забавлението и качеството на Бога.
So what Prabhupada did, he didn't go verse by verse with the purport, because that would have taken too long. You can recognize, if you now have the verses are being summarized and woven into a simultaneous purport, verse, purport, kind of. A chapter is just continuous text, but all the verses are there and then some explanation going with it.
Шрила Прабхупад не е превеждал както традиционно стих по стих с коментари, а текстът е един и върви последователно, в който се намират и текстовете и обясненията към тях.
So, well, let's start. You can see where there's 8,400,000 in the text. Start with that paragraph, 87. It's a little bit down already. And starts with there are unlimited numbers of living entities, the paragraph. It has the number 8,400,000, you probably will see. Therefore, a book is practical.
Yeah, it's here usually there is a...
But you had no, let's see, this version maybe,
okay.
maybe you can try to find that. Chapter 87, and it's, let's see, it's already a little bit down because he first explains the first 14. It starts actually from the 14th verse, so it's down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Is that unlimited?
There are unlimited numbers of living entities.
Okay.
So the prayer, the Shrutis, they offer glories Jai Jai. Then the next paragraph is, there are unlimited numbers of living entities in different varieties of bodies, some moving and some standing in one place, and the conditioned life of these living entities is due only to their forgetfulness of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there comes the number 8,400,000. Yeah, but no further down, at least 6-7 pages. You must see the number, 8,400,000. Unless they took it out. Or they wrote it in letter, not in how you say. You got that?
Oh, I found it. Има безброй живи същества в различни тела. Някои са подвижни, някои стоят на едно място. И обусловеният живот на тези живи същества се дължи на тяхната забрава за вечните им взаимоотношения с върховната божествена личност. Когато живото същество желае да господства над материалната енергия, като имитира позицията на Кришна, то веднага е хванато от материалната енергия според неговото желание и му е предложено една от разнообразните 8 на 400 хиляди различни форми.
Oh, you said already that. Now I'm going to say this in English. When the living entity wants to lord it over, the material energy by imitating the position of Krishna, he's immediately captured by the material energy and according to his desire is offered one variety of the 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies. Although undergoing the threefold miseries of material existence, the illusioned living entity falsely thinks himself the master of all he surveys. Ishvaroham.
Макар да подвластно на тристранните страдания в материалното съществуване, обърканото живо същество погрешно се счита за господарът на всичко, което вижда.
Under the spell of the material energy represented by the threefold material qualities, the living entity is so entangled that he's not at all able to become free unless he is graced by the Supreme Lord.
Под влиянието на материалната енергия, представена от трите гуни на материалната природа, живото същество е толкова оплетено, че не е способно изобщо да се освободи, докато не получи милостта на Върховния Бог.
The living entity cannot conquer the influence of the material modes of nature by his own endeavor, but because material nature is working under the control of the Supreme Lord, the Lord is beyond its jurisdiction.
Живото същество не може да бъде влиянието на материалните гуни на природата със собствени усилия, но тъй като материалната природа действа под контрола на Върховния Бог, Богът е отвъд неговата власт.
Except for him, all living entities, from Brahma down to the end, are conquered by the contact of material nature.
Освен него, всички живи същества от Брама до мравката са подвластни или биват победени от контакта с материалната природа.
So therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Daivi yesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. Duratyaya. Very difficult to overcome, which means you cannot overcome.
Затова и Кришна казва в Бхагавад Гита, че неговата материална енергия много трудно може да бъде победена, т.е. ние може да покорим.
It's mama maya. It's my maya. Not that my, therefore the Shruti said, you act beyond. The Lord was asking, so how do you know that I can conquer Maya? Very good question. Because it's your Maya. You actually created Maya.
Кришна казва, това е моята Мая и тук Шрутите, когато той ги пита, как знаете, че аз не съм подвластен, те казват, това е твоята Мая, ти си я създал.
So Prabhupada compares it to the electricity that the expert electrician, we have an expert electrician, you can manipulate and yes, that like this thing, you can, in the summer you can create cold air and in the winter you can create hot air. It's the same energy, right?
Електричеството, един опитен техник може да използва така, че да създаде през лятото студен въздух, през зимата топло.
So Krishna's energy is one, you could say. It's his energy and then it is applied or has different, according to his desire, it can act in various ways.
Кришна има една енергия, може да кажем, но тя действа по различни начини и може да бъде използвана по различни начини според желанието му.
Yes, and we are also Krishna's energy. We're marginal. We are in between. We can go here or there. We have a choice.
Ние сме междинна енергия, имаме избор да бъдем или в едната или в другата.
So if one is under the control, or you could say sometimes ashraya, under the shelter of the material energy, she will take care of you. Yeah, in one sense, Mother Nature, right? Yes. But she's not very kind all the time. Sometimes hurricanes and floods and so many things can happen, which is daiva coming from material. They are sufferings caused by material nature. And you can't really do anything about it. Huh? Like now, Madrid is under a blanket of, I don't know, the last count, but it was like almost 1 meter of snow. Huh? At the same time, in Greece, they were bathing in the Mediterranean, which is happening sometimes. They have a name for it. It always has happened since the time of the Greek, when they were powerful. Specific winds come from South Africa, from the south. We also get this when I was in Malaga. Not very pleasant when it comes in the summer, from the Sahara Desert. So all this happens in material nature, dictate. What can you do? But now, if it comes from the hot air from Africa to, in January to Greece, they are in bathing suits, and in Madrid, they are just trying to survive under the snow that's relentlessly falling, and it's 10 degrees below zero. Generally doesn't happen. I mean, last time it happened is 50 years ago. But any time it can happen. Like volcanoes, they're there, they're very nice for hundreds of years, they don't do anything. Right? You're living in Pompeii, typical Roman scene, people enjoying, drinking wine, and so many other things. We don't want to get into the details. And then, whoop, the volcano erupts, and they don't even have time to run away. While they're drinking, they're covered, and then 2,000 years later, we find them. Yes, they just found a new one of those people, completely, like, how you say, not petrified. It's not mummified almost. Like, some of these animals now they're found in North Russia, because things are melting. So then you get a wolf that's like, who knows, 40,000 years old, still with hair on the body. Some animal. So this extreme heat, extreme cold, and all these things are the mother, nature, takes care of the living entities, sometimes giving these sufferings. And therefore Krishna says, it's my energy, and if you want to go beyond that, then you have to surrender to me. Mamevaya prapadyante, very simple formula. Then mayam etang tarantite. You want to conquer material nature, not by science, but by when I control, you come under my control, then you're okay. We may believe it or not. And if you don't believe it, then you remain under the, taking, the caretaker, Maya. And the illusion is, by our scientific advancement, we will conquer. Yes. I mean, there are all kinds of really crazy ideas, how to conquer. Beginning from some devices they shoot into the sky to make rain. But they're already, this doesn't mean that when there's blue sky, you can do that. Only when there are already some clouds, right? But they are white, so they don't do the rain. Then whatever chemical process they have, to condense the water that is there, but it's not sufficient to fall. And anyway, so they imagine all these things to interfere with material nature and make things as we want.
Така, надяваме се да се намесим в природните дейности и да постигнем да направим нещата така, както ние искаме.
And something they were imagining about the North Sea, making some kind of dam in the sea with some whatever out of plastic, I mean, whatever they think, in order that not the water will not come too much. I mean, crazy ideas, you know. Because it would be hundreds of kilometers. They would do something artificial to make some barrier, you know, in the sea. So we are messing up things, and then we think that we can make an arrangement to counteract the mess. That's basically what it means. Because water is rising, the poles are melting, and there you can. Why don't you invent something to lower the temperature? Right? That's the idea. You know, just lower the temperature on the Antarctic, and then ice will grow again. Or in the North Pole is worse. It's becoming like, you know, now you can practically grow vegetables where before there was a ice shield on top of the earth.
И сега на Северния полюс ледът на Северния и Южния полюс се топи, водата расте, но не можем да измислим нещо така, че да намалим температурата. Ако тя намалее, тогава ще се увеличи леда. Но обратното сега намалява и даже в Северния полюс това може да растат.
So Krishna says, this energy of mine is Duratya, you will never be able to conquer.
Krishna казва, тази енергия е моята Дуратя, никога няма да покори.
Even if they think within the next 100, 200 years our scientific advancement will be so great that we can practically do anything we want.
Ние си мислим за това, че след стотина години толкова ще напредне в науката, че на практика ще правим каквото си поискаме.
On the other side of the micro level, getting to the DNA, cutting here and there, splicing together here and there to making, changing things and cloning things and adjusting things, and because we are more intelligent. Nature didn't know they didn't do it right.
Да, си мислим, че сме толкова интелигентни, природата не го е направила както трябва, и ние може да поправим нещата и да се забъркаме на молекулярно ниво, да променим ДНК-то, да клонираме.
Yeah, you can find out on Google. What is the cipher called? You know, that the scissors that cut the DNA. Somebody discovered it, and so they're very much how you say, enthused by the prospects, what you can do with all this. And then you start doing this, but you don't, because you don't know really, then you don't know down the road what kind of repercussions and side effects and so many other things may happen. Like, when they discovered Roundup, Monsanto, there's a specific herbicide that only kills the weeds, not the plant, not the corn, just the bad weeds. And then, harvest doubles and triples, and we were very proud to have discovered such a fantastic poison.
Този пестицид, всъщност хербицид, който убива само бурените, а не самата царя, себе растение, което отглеждане, и сме се гордели много с това.
So you are interfering with material nature. She lets you do, okay, you'll see what the result will be.
Ние се намесваме в природните закони и тя ни казва природата, да, ще видите, нека да видите как ще е резултат.
And then other things die also. The insects will die, and the poison will go into the soil, and then the human beings will take it, and then suddenly we have tox. Then we have to detox.
И това се случва, че не само бурените умират, а други същества петрол отива в земята и ние изпиваме и изяждаме и започваме да се интоксикираме.
Yes. So, material nature, the only controller is the Lord. And He did it perfectly, and we think we are more intelligent, and then we change things, and it will never actually is a good result.
Богът управлява материалната природа и тя действа съвършено. Когато ние се опитваме да променим това нещо, резултата никога няма да е добър.
So, let's see what we're going to do. We stop, no? It's 9:03. So we finished that verse in the 10th canto. Of course, Prabhupada's purport goes on. And we'll see then when he comes to the 15th, that can be discovered by comparing the texts. So we'll continue with that. Any comments? No questions, right? Comment. No questions.
Why devotees who surrender to Krishna, they say, I'm yours,
They say, but is it true?
They are still in Maya, or we.
So, what is
The
why?
Why are still in Maya? Since
Well,
they surrender.
No, then they're not surrendered. Then otherwise, how can you be in Maya? I mean, that surrender. Let's say not as all or nothing, black and white. No?
Въпросът е, ако преданите се отдадат на Кришна, Кришна казва, който ми се отдаде, преодолява май, защото когато се отдадем, все още сме в Мая. И отдаване не означава черно-бяло.
In this verse, Bhakti Pareshanubhavo, it's prapadyamanasya, in the process of surrendering.
В този текст от 11-та песен Бхакти Pareshanubhavo се казва, че в процесът на отдаване.
This very important verse which compares the results of surrendering to the eating results. When you eat something, there are 3 results.
Важен стих, защото той обяснява как процесът на отдаване води до определени резултати. В случая сравнени с храненето, което дава 3 резултати.
So when you eat, you get tushti, pushti, and kshut apayo. You get tushti means satisfaction. You know, you like what you eat. Should be like that. Unless it's nirguna prasada. So it's tushti. Then, even if it's nirguna prasadam, probably it will be pushti. You will get nourished. And kshut apayo, then hunger will go away. As you know, the more you eat, your hunger will disappear.
Тоест, ние ще захраним тялото си и ще махнем глада си.
So prapadyamanasya, when you start to surrender to the Lord, then bhakti will appear. And there will be this feeling of the connection with the Lord.
Когато започне процес на отдаване, ще се появи това чувство на преданост към Бога, бхакти.
And paraisha anubhava, one will feel the presence of the Lord in one's life.
Човек ще започне да възприема присъствието на Бога в живота си.
And virakti, one will become less and less interested in material life.
И ще стане все по-малко и по-малко заинтересован от материалния живот.
We call it detachment.
Което се нарича непривързаност.
So that's a natural consequence of surrender.
Това е естественото следствие от отдаване.
So if it doesn't happen, it means, well, then you're not really surrendering.
Ако не се случват тези резултати, означава да не се отдаваме истински.
Like when you eat, as we said before, and there's no tushti, no pushti, and the hunger remains, the question is, are you eating at all? Or what? If you eat, what are you eating?
И ако, както казахме в това сравнение, ние ядем, но не се случват тези 3 неща, тогава въпросът е какво ядем ли изобщо и какво ядем.
Or if you eat and it's good food, but then there's something inside that takes it away, then it will not work either.
Или ако ядем храната е добра, но вътре нещо в червата ни я изяжда, също не е добре.
And we mentioned 2, the main things are satsanga and aparat, but actually there are 6 which are mentioned by Rupa Goswami. They destroy if these entities grow and they take everything you eat, then there will be no devotional service. Or the results will be 0 practically.
И ние споменахме 2, но Руpa Госвами дава 6 и това са нещата, които всъщност ще изяждат и няма да има никакъв резултат от нашата бъдеще.
Atyahara, prayashascha, prajalpa, niyamagraha. What is it? Sangha? Janasangha. Janasangha lauryamcha. So you have to analyze. It's all there. And then, well, where's my problem? Maybe prajalpa. Prajalpa means Facebook. Twitter, all this is prajalpa. Twitter, Facebook, Insta, whatever there is, social networks, it's all 99.9%, except for some devotees who are not falling into the trap, prajalpa. Unnecessary talk. Or not? Am I wrong? No.
100% right.
No, even the phone itself. I mean, because I look back, there were only telephones with connected by no, how you say, no, even the phones without a wire.
The conventional ones.
Very conventional, yes. That was the only telephone. So how many? Yeah, you had to dial and all. You still had to dial, right? And it had to be plugged into the wall. So how many times we were using the phone? I mean, not even every day once. Like my mother maybe calls her mother or whatever, or her sister, once a week. I mean, what to speak of, calling, where are you? What are you doing? So then the next step was the one that you could pick up, and there was no, you could walk around. Even go out in the garden, maybe 20 meters, like incredible. Now you can just sit somewhere, and then it starts to become more prajalpa, because then you're very comfortable, you're sitting in the sun, and you're just talking and talking until the battery dies. And then the first, how you call them? The first mobile phones, which is like a brick like this, only these were like hundreds of, maybe thousands of euros. And only those who had big business, and they were only using it for their business talk. And they had it in the car, and this was like for a few people. And then the great revolution began. What was it? In the 90s, not earlier.
98, 99.
I remember when I got the first one, it was like a revelation. I think it was 99. I was in the car, driving and talking to somebody. Unbelievable. And, then they became more and more sophisticated. And everybody could have them. That's another thing. In the beginning, they were expensive. Not everybody could have. And then, because it's big business for those who provide the connection, and then they made it available to everybody, even the children. And now there are more like those compared to the ones. Even there was a point when there were more mobiles in one country than the conventional ones. That was like the, how you say this? The switch, And now, do you still have a phone that's normal?
No.
Right. That was the next step. Then these phones disappeared. I think we still have one in our farm. We still have a normal number. Right?
We do also the 10-point software.
So, but rarely used actually. Anyway, the point is now, because it doesn't matter where you are, unless you're really, who knows, maybe in the Himalayas, right? There's a few places still where you don't have a, how you say, you're not covered. Yeah, coverage. Yeah. Even in Bulgaria, if you look at the map, basically there's everywhere, but maybe not so good. Right? I think. Anyway, so the point is now, because the facility is there, they're just talking without what for? Nothing important. And we don't know, but for a devotee, that's prajalpa. That's, wasting time with unnecessary talk, and this can destroy. It's like another entity taking what you eat, and therefore the real surrender doesn't really take place. It's only one of 6. There's 6. So anyway, but that's the reason. If you ask, what I surrender, let's see. Then you have to see, what does it mean? Talk is cheap. It's called lip service. Yeah. So therefore, when Ramachandra gives this vow that I will protect somebody who really surrendered, means tattvam asi, sincerely, really means it. From that point on, one is safe. Even if one then becomes a little diverted, but Krishna will make arrangements so that one will go back to the right path. But we talked about, the pretender. That person never surrendered. It may appear so, or even that person may imagine that I did, but it's not a fact, and therefore the result will not be produced. Yeah. I mean, even Prabhupada mentions them in the Chaitanya as pseudo-devotees. Yeah. So, pseudo means it appears, but it's not. Right? You have a lot of pseudo things. Kali-yoga is very prominent. Yeah. Like all these things made from plastic that appear like gold. And if you look at it first sight, no? It's so expertly made. You really have to, actually you sometimes have to touch it whether it's cold enough. If it's not cold, you know it's plastic, but it looks exactly the same. And worse with, valuable stones, pearls. Even experts sometimes become fools. Yeah, you have to really know the process, how to test whether this is a real diamond or not. It feels the same, it looks the same. Therefore they think, well, so what? Why should I pay 100,000 if I can get it for 10? But in devotional service, it doesn't work. Just the outside, shiny and golden. Krishna has X-ray vision. He doesn't need a test kit. He knows immediately where we are at. No? You agree?
Yes.
So there's no substitute for sincerity. And if we don't have it, then again, therefore Maya is there. It's compared to hammering and fire to purify gold. Yeah. The sufferings. We may complain about suffering, but in one sense, from a higher point of view, suffering is good.
Они са оплакали страданието, но от по-висша гледна точка, страданието е добро.
To bring you to your senses in one sense. If one is completely, everything is, then how can, it's impossible. But when you're poverty stricken and, then akinchana gochara, therefore Queen Kunti says that.
Когато не промени, когато изгубим всичко, сме притиснати от Майя, казва Кунти, акинчана gochara.
Yes, therefore, we can find this in many Prabhupada say, a devotee will welcome suffering.
И затова в много коментари може да открием, Прабхупад казва, преданият посреща добре, прегръща страдания.
Sees it as Krishna's mercy.
И гледа на това като на милост на Кришна.
Because it's an opportunity to really now, especially if it's like a deadly, fatal disease, diagnosed cancer, and you have a few months more to live.
Особено това е някаква болест неуспешна, когато нищо не може да прави, но само няколко месеца.
If you know that, it's a great blessing.
Ако знаеш, това е благословение.
Others who are thinking that I'm young and powerful, and this and that, and they don't care, that then they may die in a second and without preparation.
Тези, които са по-млади, могат да си мислят, че нищо няма да им се случи, и са безгрижни, и много могат да умрат във всеки момент, но не са готови.
But if you are diagnosed and there's only so much time left, like Maharaj Parikshit, you probably get serious.
Но ако имате тази диагноза, знаете, че остава малко, вероятно ще станете сериозни пред Махарадж.
First thing, you throw away the phone.
Първото нещо, хвърляте телефона.
Get out the Bhagavatam. So now I went too far with time. I will stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Gaunitai Gauravani.